The amazing story of Saint Augustine, a restless heart, begins. A beautiful sunrise over the hills of North Africa. What if I told you that one of the greatest saints in Christian history once lived far from God? Long before Saint Augustine became a bishop, a theologian, and one of the most influential Christians who ever lived, he was a young man searching for happiness in all the wrong places. His story is not just about a saint, it's about a son, a mother who never gave up, and a God whose love never stopped pursuing him. Ancient town of Thagaste in North Africa. Augustine was born in the year 354 in a small town called Thagaste in North Africa. His father, Patricius, was ambitious and hoped his son would become successful and respected. But it was Augustine's mother, Monica, who planted the seeds of faith in his young heart. Monica was a devoted Christian woman. She loved God deeply and taught her son about Jesus from the time he was a child. Little did she know that the journey ahead would bring years of tears, prayers, and heartache. Even as a boy, Augustine was incredibly intelligent. He loved reading and learning. Teachers admired him, and people saw great potential in him. Everyone believed he would become someone important, and they were right. But greatness without God can still leave a person empty. As Augustine grew older, he left home to continue his studies in Carthage. The city was exciting. It was full of opportunities, entertainment, and worldly pleasures. For the first time in his life, Augustine had freedom. And sadly, he began using that freedom to chase things that could never truly satisfy him. Busy streets and pleasures of ancient Carthage. He pursued success. He pursued pleasure. He wanted recognition. He wanted to enjoy life on his own terms. Years later, Augustine would honestly admit that he made many mistakes. He wanted happiness, but he was looking for it in all the wrong places. Back home, Monica watched her son drift farther away from God. Many mothers would have given up. But Monica didn't. She prayed. And she prayed. And she prayed. Sometimes with tears in her eyes. Sometimes through sleepless nights. She asked God again and again, "Please, Lord, bring my son back to you." Candlelight and Bible, there were moments when it seemed like nothing was changing. Augustine was becoming successful, people admired him. But his mother's heart was breaking. Still, Monica trusted God. She believed that no one was too far gone for God's mercy. And although Augustine didn't know it, God was already at work in his life. Outwardly, Augustine appeared successful. But inside, something was missing. He had friends. He had knowledge. He had dreams. Yet deep within his heart, he felt restless. He wanted peace. He wanted answers. But he didn't know where to find them. And that restless heart would eventually lead him on a journey that would change his life forever. But Augustine's search for truth was only beginning. And God was preparing people and circumstances that would lead him back home. The search for truth. Augustine teaching students in Carthage. As the years passed, Augustine became known for his intelligence and his gift for speaking. People admired him. His students respected him. And little by little he was building the successful life he had always dreamed of. But success could not silence the questions inside his heart. Deep down, Augustine was still searching. He wanted truth. He wanted meaning. He wanted something that could satisfy the emptiness he carried within. Ancient books and philosophers. His search led him to different philosophies and teachings. One group in particular promised to explain everything. They claimed to possess secret knowledge and answers to life's deepest mysteries. At first, Augustine was fascinated. He believed he had finally found what he was looking for. But after many years, disappointment began to set in. The answers he had trusted left him with even more questions. And once again, his restless heart remained unsatisfied. Monica praying with tears while Augustine searched for truth. His mother Monica continued searching for God on her knees. Day after day she prayed for her son. She refused to believe that God had forgotten him. Many times she cried before the Lord. Many times she wondered when the answer would come. But through every disappointment she held on to hope. Augustine boarding a ship. Eventually, Augustine decided to leave for Rome. He believed a new city would bring new opportunities and greater success. But when Monica learned about his plans, she was heartbroken. She wanted to stay close to her son. She wanted to continue encouraging him. Augustine, however, had other plans. One night, while Monica was praying in a chapel, Augustine quietly boarded a ship and sailed away. When Monica discovered that he had left without saying goodbye, her heart shattered. But even then, she did not stop praying. Monica looking toward the sea. Most mothers would have become bitter. But Monica chose faith instead. She trusted that God could follow her son, even where she could not. And unknown to Augustine, every tear his mother shed was planting seeds that would one day bear fruit. Rome city streets. Rome was everything Augustine had imagined. Busy, powerful, full of opportunities. But once again, success failed to bring peace. Soon, another opportunity opened up. Augustine was invited to Milan, one of the greatest cities of the Roman Empire. Little did he know, God was already preparing something extraordinary there. City of Milan. In Milan, Augustine heard about a bishop named Ambrose. People spoke highly of him. Not only was Ambrose wise, but he was also an exceptional speaker. Augustine decided to listen to him. At first, he wasn't interested in Christianity. He simply admired Ambrose's intelligence and eloquence. But as he listened week after week, something unexpected began to happen. The words touched his heart. For the first time, Augustine realized that Christianity was deeper and more beautiful than he had ever imagined. St. Ambrose preaching, Ambrose answered questions Augustine had struggled with for years. Slowly, the walls around Augustine's heart began to crack. Still, he struggled. Part of him wanted God. Another part wanted to hold on to his old life. He was caught between two worlds. And inside him a battle had begun. Augustine alone in his room. At night, Augustine found himself unable to rest. He would lie awake thinking about everything he had heard. He knew God was calling him, but changing his life seemed impossible. He was afraid. Afraid to let go, afraid to surrender, afraid of what people might think. And so the struggle inside his soul became stronger. Monica arriving in Milan. Meanwhile, Monica had not given up. Eventually, she joined her son in Milan. And when she saw the changes taking place in his heart, hope began to rise once again. After years of tears and prayers, she sensed that God was finally answering. She didn't know when, she didn't know how, but she knew something wonderful was about to happen. Augustine had spent years searching for truth. But soon, truth itself would find him. And in a quiet garden, one moment would change his life forever. Augustine alone in his room at night. Although Augustine had begun to believe that Christianity was true, he still struggled to give his life completely to God. He wanted peace. He wanted freedom. But old habits held him back. Night after night his mind was troubled. He knew what was right, but he felt powerless to do it. Deep inside, a battle was raging. Part of him wanted to follow God. Another part wanted to hold on to the life he had always known. And the struggle became almost unbearable. One day, overwhelmed with sorrow, Augustine left the house and walked into a garden. His heart was heavy. Years of searching. Years of disappointment. Years of trying to find happiness without God. He could carry the burden no longer. He sat beneath a tree and burst into tears. Augustine weeping beneath a tree. As tears rolled down his face, Augustine cried out from the depths of his soul, "How long, O Lord? How long will I continue living like this? Tomorrow, and tomorrow again? Why not now? Why not put an end to my old life this very moment?" Never before had he felt so broken. Never before had he desired God so deeply. A peaceful garden with sunlight. Then suddenly something unexpected happened. From somewhere nearby, Augustine heard the voice of a child singing. Again and again, the voice repeated the same words, "Take up and read. Take up and read." Augustine had never heard anything like it before. He paused. He listened carefully. And in his heart he believed God was speaking to him. Bible lying on a bench. Nearby was a copy of the scriptures. Augustine picked it up. With trembling hands he opened the book. His eyes fell upon words that seemed written especially for him. At that moment light entered his heart. The darkness that had troubled him for years began to disappear. The chains that had held him captive lost their power. And there, in that quiet garden, Augustine surrendered his life completely to Jesus Christ. Sunrise breaking through clouds. The peace he had been searching for all his life had finally arrived. Not through wealth, not through knowledge, not through fame, but through God. After years of running, Augustine had finally come home. Monica smiling with tears. When Augustine shared the news with his mother, Monica could hardly believe it. For years she had prayed, for years she had cried, for years she had trusted God. And now, the answer she had waited for had finally come. The son she had never stopped loving had found his way home. Her tears had not been wasted. God had heard every prayer. Saint Ambrose baptizing Augustine. In the year 387, during the Easter Vigil, Augustine was baptized by Bishop Ambrose. Standing nearby was Monica. No words could express her joy. Her heart overflowed with gratitude. God had given her more than she had dared to hope for. Monica and Augustine speaking together. Not long afterward, Monica and Augustine traveled together. One day, while they were talking about the joys of heaven and the goodness of God, Monica spoke words her son would never forget. She told him, "My son, there is nothing more in this life that I desire. God has answered my prayers. I have seen you become his servant." Not many days later, Monica became ill. And peacefully, she went home to be with the Lord. For Augustine, losing his mother was painful. But he knew she died with joy in her heart. Augustine preaching to the people. Augustine returned to North Africa. He devoted himself to prayer, study, and serving others. Eventually, he became a priest, and later Bishop of Hippo. The young man who once ran from God became one of the greatest teachers in Christian history. His books would influence millions of people throughout the centuries. But Augustine never forgot where he had come from. He never forgot the mercy of God. And he never forgot the prayers of his mother. A peaceful sunrise over the sea. Looking back on his life, Augustine wrote words that have touched countless hearts. "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." And perhaps that was the greatest lesson he learned. Nothing in this world can satisfy the human heart except God. Cross at sunrise. Maybe today you feel far from God. Maybe you have made mistakes. Or perhaps you are praying for someone you love. Remember the story of Saint Augustine. Remember the tears of Monica. Remember that no one is beyond God's grace. Because if God could change Augustine, he can change anyone. And sometimes, the answer to years of prayer arrives when we least expect it. For with God no heart is too lost to be found.